Hello and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Hi, today we are going to be talking about how to transplant plants that have been growing in water into soil. Okay, so that seems like, oh, it's easy. I'm just going to take it out of the water and stick it in some soil. It's not quite that easy. The reason it's not quite that easy is because, and a lot of people don't know this, the roots that are created when you root a plant in water are not the same roots that are used when a plant then is grown in soil. The plant will make soil roots at that point. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that's going to happen. You're not going to stick it in the soil and then a day or two later it's going to have soil roots. It takes a while. So what you need to do is make sure that the plant is going to be able to create these soil roots as easily as possible so that the plant survives, okay? The soil roots are much thicker. They're much sturdier than the roots that are created for water growing. And with that in mind, you need to be real careful with those water growing roots because the plant still needs those roots to transition into soil roots, right? It's going to be getting its water from those roots that were formed when it was in water until it gets enough of the soil roots to then grow well in the soil, okay? So this is a wax plant, Hoya Carnosa. This plant was rooted in water. We've got some nice roots going on in here. This plant these different plants, there's about 5 cuttings in here, were featured in another video on rooting in softened water, and why that's a no-no. This plant is fine now. They weren't before though, so I do have a video on that to show you. I'll put the link below. So anyway, these are ready to go. I'm going to show you a way to transition them into the soil, which makes it a lot more likely that the plant is going to start forming those roots for soil and grow really, really well for you. You can go from the water roots directly into soil. A lot of times you'll have some good luck with that. Or you can do the procedure that I'm going to show you, which is half soil, half water for a while until the plant starts to grow those soil roots, okay? If you do decide, you know what, I'm just going to put this in soil, I'm going to just get this done, be very careful with those water roots because they are delicate. If you pull them off, the plant is not going to make it at all, right? If you do pot up a plant that has been growing in water into soil, and you think that you may have knocked the roots too much, maybe the roots fell off, maybe the roots aren't doing well, you can't always take the plant out of the soil, do some more rooting in water, and try again. And I would recommend what I'm going to show you in a minute, using that method instead. However, do keep in mind also that the plants have to acclimate to the fact that they are now needing to grow roots for soil, okay? So that being said, the plant may droop a little bit, the plant may not look too good for a week or two until it starts to grow the roots for soil. In the same time, what you want to do during that period is you want to make sure to keep it very well watered, because remember, the plant has been used to 24/7 water whenever it wants. It's just soaking up water. So you're going to keep plants that you have rooted in water and put in soil wetter in that soil than you would a plant that has always been growing in soil and you pot it up to another pot in the same soil, in the same manner, in the same growing, okay? So that's something really important to keep in mind. You're going to be doing more watering initially till it gets those soil roots, and then you're going to pull back on watering, especially with something like the Hoya, because the Hoya does not like to be in a lot of wet soil, all right? Okay, so I'm going to show you this method. I am using a jar, and we're going to be able to see later on, I will do another video, follow-up video, there we're going to be able to see the soil roots starting to grow, because you will see them growing within the potting soil. Right now this doesn't have any drainage holes because this is not its permanent pot. This is just the interim until we get it to start creating soil roots. So what I'm going to do, I've chosen the bigger one. I'm choosing the big one. This one has a lot of nice roots on it, as you'll see. Some of the other ones are nice too, but not quite as much roots. It doesn't necessarily, like we mentioned, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have a lot of roots so that the plant will create a lot of roots. What this is more for is the fact that the plant will be able to stay hydrated because it has more of these water roots on it, so that it can then get to that next level of growing the potting soil roots. So I'm just using the strongest plant in that terms to have the most luck. Okay, so I'm putting this guy in here. Into this nice little jar here. You can use any jar, but do one with a bigger mouth. Even bigger mouth would be nice, because when we go to repot this guy, we want to be able to get it out without breaking roots and that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to put some water in here. And then I have pre-moistened this soil. I've also added some worm compost. I love worm compost. I have lots of videos on it. So you can add a little compost into the soil. I wouldn't add any other fertilizer into the soil. A lot of soils have fertilizer. This is ProMix BX. I'll put a link below. It already has some fertilizer, but it's a light fertilizer because it's an organic soil. So use an organic soil that just has a little bit of nutrients. You don't want to be giving these water roots a whole bunch of fertilizer right now. That will burn those roots, which, as I mentioned, are already delicate, right? So you don't want to give the roots, those water roots, any reason to start falling off and dying before the soil roots have come in. So the worm compost, though, is very low in nutrients. It's very gentle, and it will help those soil roots grow. Okay, so we are going to add soil to this jar here. I have pre-moistened the soil so that it doesn't float to the top right now, and where I would have to start mixing, which you wouldn't want to do with those delicate roots. The Hoya water roots aren't as delicate as some. You'll notice with things like coleus, for instance, when you root in water, and pothos even, that they're finer, they're more finer, more delicate. Okay, so the point here being is that you want to keep things moist as the plant then acclimates to potting soil. Okay, so you put it in, put it up a little bit, check it out. You can see I've got a good, boggy situation in there, right? I'm gonna add a little bit more soil. And then I'm going to top with water, because we don't want any of those roots up top to be exposed to air and dry out, which would be bad for the plant. So I'm gonna fill it almost to the top there. And then this, put that in there. So we've got it a really good situation here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait. It's going to stay nice and moist, so the plant will be fine. It's used to soaking up water from its roots, and it's going to continue to do that. But at the same time, it's going to start to find that soil, that potting soil, and it's going to start to grow into that. I'm going to wait a week, and then I'm going to add some more potting soil. And then I'm going to wait a week, and I'm going to add some more potting soil. And about 2 to 3 weeks from now, it's going to pretty much be in the soil that it needs to be in, but it'll still be pretty moist. By a month, I should be starting to see some of those soil roots coming out. And at that time, depending on how many, if it looks like there's a fair amount of them, then I'm going to be taking it out of the jar at that point and putting it into its own pot in soil. Now, there's a couple different things you can do to encourage those soil roots to start growing. One thing is you can make sure that the whole thing stays humid. So you can create a humidity dome of sorts. I'm going to put this wooden dowel in there to hold things up, okay? And so it's pretty easy, as you can see too. Is this going to be a perfect humidity dome? No, but it's going to give the plant a little extra humidity in there to help it start, and I can tighten that as well, to help it start growing those roots. You can see it's already getting a little condensation-y in there, which is good. Do make sure that it doesn't start to look like it's rotting or something when you do this. If it is, take it off, or make some holes in it. Another thing you can do to even make it even more effective and make those soil roots be created even quicker is to put this on a heating mat. They do have plant heating mats that will heat the bottom, and that will cause the soil roots to grow even more. So that's another trick to get this thing going more quickly for you, okay? So this is it, and as mentioned, in a week I'm going to add, and I'm going to also keep an eye on it, make sure that it's not drying out, make sure that it doesn't sink, the water level doesn't sink, that all the roots stay moist during this time period. And then in a week I'm going to add some more soil, mix it in again with a little bit with the dowel, and then keep doing that as I go until it starts growing its own soil roots, and then we say yay, and we get it into its own pot, and we start growing it as you would a regular Hoya. And I do have a video on how to grow them as well. So that is it for how to plant plants that have been rooted in water into soil. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.